So this is a rules exploration for La Bataille, PME, Rules for Napoleonic Grand Tactical Warfare, 1792 to 1815. And right now I really, not quickly, but progressively, I find myself getting into, being drawn into the La Bataille design. Now, of course, I have to say La Bataille design because there is no, I think it's quite accurate to say there is no core rules. And by the way, I've no expert on any of this because I think I made some comments about, I think 5th edition rules. No, I made some comments about the Regs 30 several days ago, and I quickly reading online found that I was way off base. So I don't know anything about any of these rules except for, well, two things. I can comment on the La Bataille de Vauchamps rules, and I can comment now a little bit on these rules. Still not deep experience yet, of course, but I think I think I'm going to get there. I think I'm breaking through the La Bataille design barrier. Now, with recent thinking about the design, I'm sorry, not recent thinking about the design, but recently reading my hard copy of these rules, I noticed the term formation is used a lot throughout the rules, and I wondered, but didn't take a look at, so I'm going to do that now. I wondered, is the word being used consistently, and how is it being used? Specifically, is a single counter, may a single counter be a formation, rules-wise? May a stack of counters be a formation, and may multiple counters, not even in contiguous hexes, be a formation? And is there yet another meaning to the term formation in this design? Actually, I should look at that. So we do have formations in the sense of line, column, etc. So we do have that. I mean, I saw that right off the bat early on, but then I saw uses of the term that I thought, I guess I could do whole word, couldn't I? Let's do that. Formation status. Okay, see, formation status. Okay, so do we mean status of the formation of the unit? Not sure yet. When a combat unit takes a loss, place an increment counter under the formation to reflect the loss. See, that looks synonymous with unit or counter. Other informational markers indicate specific formations, such as infantry, square, or road march order. Again, that's like line and column in skirmisher. And there are specific counters that denote morale status when a combat formation is disordered or routed, DD and PGD. In some cases, there is so in these rules, in the PME rules, do you ever consider formations in the sense of a regiment of multiple battalions, or a battalion of multiple companies? In some cases, there is additional information on the specific side of the counter regarding range of fire, yes, or special abilities of the individual combat formation. Again, isn't that synonymous with unit or counter? Oh, unless they mean, maybe it is formation, because now it just popped into my mind. So if you have a regiment counter, and I guess that regiment counter might also represent 2 or 3 or more battalion counters, in which case that regiment would still have the range and special abilities indicated on it, and those would not presumably change or go away when broken out. Well, they might change, but they're still factored into the individual units if and when they're broken out. Oh, okay. The cavalry never breaks down into a smaller formation. Formations. Numbers found on the specific side of the counter are the modifiers to the dice. Well, these are leaders and aide-de-camps. Okay. When using the leader or to affect fire of artillery, melee of an enemy formation, or improve the morale of friendly troops. Okay. Alright, so this is still leaders. Should a formation containing a leader be eliminated, the leader will move to the closest hex. Okay. Formation surrendered. The fact is, if that decision is to form square or stand while cavalry is charging the last 300 yards to reach your formation, you have less than 30 seconds past the order. Yeah. Alright, the density of a formation as a target. When a formation suffers a loss, all specific combat values are affected in one way or another. The specific values which are impacted first are the melee values. When an infantry unit is in general order, the formation has 5 front heads. Blah blah blah. This is orientation. When an infantry unit is in line formation in one hex, so there are at least 2 different but also expected definitions or meanings of the term formation. When in a single hex, the combat formation in line has 2 front sides, 2 flanks, 2 rear hexes. When the line formation, so basically what we're saying is when a formation is in line formation, it has 5 or more. And has 5 or more increments, is in line and extends into hexes, use the extended line. When an infantry unit of more than 5 increments is in line, the formation has 4. So here we say unit, when an infantry unit, but maybe it's just to sound better, because I think you'd probably just as easily say when an infantry formation of more than 5 increments is in line, the formation has 4 front, 2 flank, and 4 rear hexes. The formation is, this is artillery. When and or if a combat formation is attacked through when a combat unit enters a hex adjacent to a front hex side of an enemy combat formation, it is said to have entered the opposing unit's zone of influence. Now, this meaning is interchangeable with unit, it looks like. Exception, this includes facing formation changes if there are movement points used. So this is formation in the sense of, so there's formation as grouping, and then there's formation as in the particular physical arrangement of the grouping of soldiers in this case. If the exiting unit decides to change formation, line to column, in zone of influence, and then leave, the non-phasing player may have 2 opportunity fire attacks. Whenever a combat formation exits an enemy zone of influence involuntarily as a result of a melee attack, the retreating formation will lose 1 increment for every hex it exits, which has a zone of influence upon it. If the hex is occupied by a friendly combat formation, no loss is suffered. So examples of combat. Tactical organizations. During the age of Napoleon, a combat formation would assume different tactical organizations. Oh my, this is so this is calling tactical organizations, labeling this section 15, tactical organizations. This is the same as what is also referred to as simply a formation. So again, during the age of Napoleon, a combat formation would assume different tactical formations for different conflict situations. Okay, so I was the inkling I had was, I guess, online. There's a lot of the term. There's many uses of the term formation throughout the rules. There is no one core or root, I guess, meaning for the term here. So we have line and column and square, general order, infantry formation changes. artillery formation changes, cavalry formation changes. See, infantry in line. This many as 18 increments may be deployed in line formation in a single hex. That's very dense. Line formation may only be employed in clear terrain. I was missing this, or I just hadn't gotten to this yet. I need to remember this in my own playing. Line formation may only be employed in clear terrain. Remember to treat slopes as clear terrain. And then in La Bataille de Ligny, are the cultivated hexes treated as clear terrain in this sense or not? When infantry is in a formation other than line and wishes to deploy into line in 2 hexes, another move point. Okay. Okay, reducing movement in line. I need to remember this too. Subtract 2 off the movement potential right off the bat. Line formation, fire defense in line. When there are 7 or more increments deployed in a line, in a hex in line formation. See, why isn't this line? Is it orientation? The hex will have the fire defense of a column. This is another. See, fire defense chart. Okay, this is another important thing to remember. A unit will have the fire defense of a line when there are 6 increments or less deployed in the hex inline formation. Artillery deployed with infantry. That's something I should probably practice a little bit. Assault from line. Defense in line. Refused flanks. This is also something I should pay attention to. But to review again, for a unit in line formation, a flank hex is considered refused as long as it also is the front hex of adjacent unit in any formation except units in skirmish order. Refused flanks are treated as front hex sides. Examples: movement of a square, road march, artillery formation change. Cavalry may enter line formation in multiple hexes in the same manner as infantry, with these exceptions. As long as there is a minimum of 4 increments per hex, the cavalry may form line in more than 2 hexes, and it costs cavalry 3 movement points to change its organizational status, in parentheses, formation. When cavalry enters line formation in more than 2 hexes, additional rules pertaining to cavalry tactical organization. Cavalry deployed in line, multiple hexes. Since line formation may only be employed in clear terrain, this statement refers to slope hex sides. Lance-armed cavalry, when in line formation, have their lance bonus doubled and added to the melee value of each hex they are deployed into. This is a good thing to remember, but it actually sounds vaguely familiar from La Bataille de Vauchamps. The lance bonus does not apply to lance-armed cavalry in column formation. That makes sense. That's a good thing about this design. The rules do mostly make sense. Combat formations that are disordered immediately adopt their either column formation when in clear terrain, or general order if the terrain type warrants it. This is actually something to remember. I'd already run across what formation they assume when they basically rally, but also combat formations that are disordered immediately adopt either column formation. And I imagine this could actually be significant in play, depending on what happens immediately after the disordering. Disorder combat units must be in one or the other. Movement. Okay, that's the reduction for moving in line. Is inverted. Okay, yeah, inverted for skirmishers. See, when in this formation. Formation and orientation chart. So, okay. Combat units with 3 or less increments adopt this formation. Okay. Yeah, we've already gone over a lot of with respect to skirmishers. Okay. It's a lot about formations. In a sense, you could say the design is fundamentally about formation and, as they say, orientation. Yeah. Fire combat. The fire defense of a line formation with less than 7 increments is. Oh, that's an example. Yeah. I won't look at any examples because I guess like fire combat chart and the defense chart are, I guess, more or less game specific. Mass targets, artillery fire rules, artillery ranges. I thought there was something to remember here. Yeah, there it is. It's spelled out. This is something to remember when I get to artillery. If artillery elects to fire, the battery must fire at the closest target, regardless of there being a better shot at a more distant range. It's kind of funny. The, I guess, simple and kind of everyday language wording of that. Clearly they're talking about valid targets. But yeah, that's definitely something to remember and makes sense. The defensive fire, I think I've actually talked about. Opportunity fire, yes. Retreats before melee. Morale. Formation. When a combat formation has good morale, it can be expected to fight according to its printing capabilities. Yeah. See, morale recovery segment. Formation will either recover its good morale or rout. There it is. If the unit recovers its good morale, the unit will either assume column organization or general order, depending on the terrain, at the time of the recovery. That's where I thought I saw that. Once infantry is routed, the routed formation may not initiate fire combat, which makes sense, but it can still melee in the defense at a significant penalty, and a movement is set. Paths of retreat. Whenever combat formation, which is disorder routed, begins, ends, or moves through other units which are in good order, the units in good order must check their morale. When a combat formation wishes, these are when combat formations check morale. This is why I'm done now, but this is where when combat formations check morale. For a moment there, I was thinking, are we tracking formation status as in multiple counters on the map and spread out on the map? Because some games have that, of course, but then I guess not. Again, it's this particular idea of formations, which again I guess it makes sense if again it means. So in one hex there might be one counter, but for example, if that counter is a regiment, then at the same time there are 2 or more battalion counters there at the same time, etc. I mean, go down, I guess, possibly go down from there, I don't know, but I guess in that sense formation makes sense in a way that's very, very similar to unit or counter.